And that goes back, you see, to archaic notions of the world, as if it were a political state modeled after the political states of the ancient Near East, where great tyrant kings were the fathers and rulers of the people. I'm constantly puzzled as to how the citizens of a republic, such as the United States, who are supposed to believe that a republic is the best form of government, can believe that the universe is a monarchy. Completely inconsistent. If the universe is a monarchy, then the monarchy is the best form of government. You have one. No, I rather feel, if I can put this into words at all, this sort of experience, that we are not strangers in this universe. Although we've all been somehow, slightly with our own connivance, been hoodwinked into thinking that we are. We say, I came into this world. I feel myself put upon by fate, by chance, by my environment or whatever. And we take the attitude that we are in some way or other victims of the scheme of things. And therefore most of what we experienced is defined as what happens to us. And only a very small part of what we experience is defined as that which we ourselves do and wish and decide upon. So we feel experience as a conflict on the one hand between our efforts and willing and wishing, and on the other hand, what simply happens. And therefore we feel sort of tossed about like ships on an enormous swell in relation to the rest of the world. But when you really consider your own existence, you can't account for it as something introduced into this world from outside. What you are as a total being, that is not only what you think and are aware of, but also all that you don't think about and aren't aware of. The whole structure of your organism. That you are this is a symptom, an expression of the whole thing that's going on. In a certain sense, you are just as much a part of an essential expression of the universe as the sun is, or a galaxy is. Only, we tend to think of ourselves as discontinuous with the whole thing. In this way, when you look, let's say, at a photograph in a newspaper, you look at it with a magnifying glass, the picture disappears. You see only an area of dots. But when you stand away from it and drop the magnifying glass, the dots merge into a face. So when you look at anything close up, you don't see its relatedness to everything else. Look at the dots under the magnifying glass, and you don't see their connection with the face. So our view of our own personal lives, our own work, and our own personal circumstances is a very close-up view. And we don't see how it fits in with some larger design. We're too close to it. And we can argue it doesn't fit in. We feel we really are separate. We're not connected with this whole thing. Our life, my life as an individual, is just a flash.
Release the hounds!
Between two darknesses. Well, there are all sorts of other flashes going on. Before we were born and after we die. Flash, 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 flash. Between all these different flashes, which are like the dots in the newspaper photograph, there are, for those who want to see, connections. After all, you think of your body as a connected, unified reality. But if you look at your body from a certain point of view, you are composed of molecules that are vastly separate in space. But because those molecules are so tiny, and the separations between them so tiny as to escape your notice, you don't see that you're nothing as you stretch out your apparently solid arm. This is just all the way down. See? Is that some bird? Oh. So, yeah. It's all right. Don't interrupt him, because he's going to make a very amusing comments at certain points. But you see this, that when you take the small in view, you don't see the connectedness. And therefore, you would say now, is this the solidity, the continuity of this arm, is that real? And a person who always thinks in terms of the microscopic would say, no, it's not real, it's only an illusion. The reality is all those separate molecules. Then the physicist comes along to him and says, that's a lot of nonsense. Those molecules aren't there at all. They're only minute electrons and other subnuclear particles. But actually, you see, every party's point of view is correct. It is correct that there are these widely separated little particles, but it is also correct that there is a unity through the whole thing. So in just the same way, we looking myopically at our own lives and seeing ourselves all as separate bodies and feeling that each one of us has a separate time beginning with birth and ending with death, we are blind to the way in which each one of us is really absolutely integrated with everything else that's going on. But so long, you see, as we're all brought up to feel that we are here on sufferance, then we are, to that extent, emotionally prejudiced against seeing that each one of us is really a particular way of looking at all that there is, and a particular way of being responsible for all that there is. You, in other words, yes, you did it, and are to be praised or blamed, or neither, for everything that's happened. When we say, well, that wasn't my fault, it was those scapegoats, whether they be Jews, communists, Turks, infidels, heretics, Chinese, Vietnamese, Africans, any Catholics, Birchers, New Leftists, anybody you can think of you don't like, you can always say, well, they started. They're the cause of the trouble. But the real secret is that you're responsible for everything that's going on. And there is in you everything that is angelic about human beings and everything that's diabolical. The question is, how do you play those two together? So putting it in this way, I would say simply that life is the play, and I underline the word play, of a single energy. And you are that energy. That energy, like all energy, is a pulsation. And therefore we have the appearance and disappearance of its pulses. You could say, I, defined as a certain human body called Alan Watts, am a pulse of this energy. And therefore I have, my presence is inseparable from my absence, as is the case with all waves and pulses. A wave must have an upside and a downside, or shall we say a crest and a trough, where it is and where it isn't. So every pulse of the universal energy has an on and an off. We call that life and death. Or it may be waking and sleeping, or now you see it, now you don't. And this thing is just what we all are. From the highest point of view, it never makes mistakes. When you watch the clouds, did you ever accuse a cloud of being aesthetically malformed? Did you ever think that mountains were to be criticized for their outline? Did you ever think that the stars were badly arranged, or that the patterns in foam had something to be desired? No. But of course we feel that about ourselves just because of our close point of view to ourselves. If we looked at ourselves sub specie eternitatis, from the standpoint of eternity, we should see that our lives in every detail and in every respect were as harmonious and exquisite as the patterns on seashells. And we should find that everything that was a mistake, that was done wrong, was actually an integral part of a harmonious relationship. Only we couldn't see it that way from our limited point of view. So one could say that at the highest level, this universe is an incomparable jewel of harmonious, dancing, patterning energy. Very intelligent in the sense of, what do we mean by intelligence? A complex, harmonious design. Included in this harmonious design is, of course, the fact that we feel it not to be so. Our objections to what we wrongly think of as the disharmony of the universe, the very fact that those objections occur are an integral part of the harmony. So that if I feel furious with somebody like Hitler because he kills ever so many people, like the massacre of the Jews, I would not say that it was wrong for me to feel furious, but simply that too, if his slaying of the Jews is after all part of this harmonious thing, so is my fury about it. From the highest point of view, the most inclusive point of view, it all goes together. And if you understand that, if you actually feel in your bones, if you sense that as a vivid sensation, a very curious thing happens to you. You are able to function in your everyday life without hang-ups. It's like this. Everybody is really using an enormous amount of energy protecting themselves. And a lot of the energy we're using is only thinking about how we would protect ourselves if we were challenged to do so. We waste an incredible amount of psychic energy in this state of inner cramp, tension, of anxiety about what will happen if. Supposing. Now, put yourselves in the position of realizing that you're walking and dancing around in a space like a trapeze artist. But there's no concrete below you to fall on. You can do anything you want, any crazy act, flip any way you wish. And although you may go through the illusion of a crash, there is never a real crash. You've nothing to lose, because you are, in fact, the whole works. Only the whole works has a most interesting device in it, which is pretending that it's in danger, that it could come to a final end. This is the familiar phenomenon of goosing yourself, of giving yourself a scare, as if the universe were a system that crept up behind itself and said, "Boo!" So it jumps, you see? And each jump is like the new spring of the grasshopper going along. Every time it gets to itself, boo, it jumps, see? Boo, jumps like this. Because you have to understand this. This is terribly important. A lot of people think, you see, that the goal of life, the thing that you really should get hold of is power, to be in control. And you can take all kinds of lessons on master your life, be in control of this, be in control of that. Now let me let you into a secret. What the real meaning of all these things is that when you study the whole philosophy and psychology of power, and you really go to the end of it, you'll find that that's not what you want. Imagine, let your fantasy go. Make yourself the master magician. You can read everybody's mind. You know the future completely and clearly. You need not be subject to the ordinary conditions of nature. Supposing, for example, you could renew your body all the time and never need to die. Supposing you could be anywhere you wanted to be in the universe at the slight quiver of a whim. Go through this, think this through. Everybody thinks they want power. But if you really think through what situation you would be in if you had absolute power, you would say, man who needs it. You wouldn't want it, because you would be completely bored. So power is not the thing we really want. There is nothing more instructive in the world than to think out systematically and thoroughly what it is that you do want. And curiously enough, the best you will come to is that you don't know. Because you want a surprise. Now you can't surprise yourself. You see? If you're in control and you plan a surprise, it's obviously not a surprise. But you see, once you could imagine God, who came to the conclusion in eternity that he knew it all. He had to create something and said to it, surprise me. That was man. Of course it was God, because God had a system in himself whereby he could let his left hand not know what his right hand was doing. It's like when you play chess with yourself and you take each side in the game quite honestly and try to make it win. One of the most interesting exercises, take a couple of knitting needles or those cocktail picks that look like swords and have a fencing match between your left hand and your right hand and really try to get digs in, but let the other hand be equally defensive against the digs. It's very interesting. That's a good exercise in yoga. Do that. Find out a lot about yourself that way. Let not your left hand know what your right hand doeth. But that's the sort of system we're in. That's like this universe. Because if you understand that you don't want power, not really, you always want to be getting a little more power, but you don't want final power. Because then nothing would happen. Just like when you're playing a game, maybe bridge, maybe chess, or whatever it is. And at the moment that the outcome of the game becomes certain, you cancel the game and begin again. Because there's no fun in a game with a certain outcome. Might just as well not play it. Because any future that is certain is already past in the sense that you've had it. So, I look then upon what we're doing in this world, that every one of us is a particular expression at a particular time and a particular place of the whole thing. Basically, you are the witch than which there is no witcher. You are the Godhead. And you don't have to think of that in terms of an old gentleman with a beard. You are basically the Godhead. But this energy, intelligent energy, is capable of expressing itself in myriads of forms, each one with a different point of view. Like your eyes look out of your head, each one with a different point of view. All your nerve ends are there in your skin, almost like the horns on a little snail, all feeling around. Every one is you looking from a different point of view towards the world.
You will not defile
So,
me,
in turn, I can see all human beings' eyes as many, many horns on a cosmic snail, all looking out from a single center. All of us, appearing and disappearing,
burn
coming
in
and going.
righteous fire.
We pop out and we pop in. We are born and we die. We are thrown out and withdrawn. And as you watch this, you see, from a larger point of view, you see a throbbing rhythm, each time coming out with a different variation. One day we could call it John Doe, the next time it's Jimmy Smith, the next time it's, it throbs. It has little subtle variations in it each time, each one worthy of being given a different name. But it's all the same energy doing this. Now, obviously, if you aren't aware of that, and you think seriously that you're just poor little me, who got thrown into this world by some irresponsible parents,